In the vast expanse of the universe, amidst the swirling nebulae and silent stars, there exists a peculiar species known as humans. They are not the most intelligent beings, nor are they the strongest or fastest. Yet, they have carved out a reputation across galaxies that is both feared and revered. This is their story. Once upon a time, in the quiet corner of an unremarkable spiral galaxy, humans emerged from their blue planet. They were not born into greatness. Rather, they clawed their way to it with sheer willpower and an almost reckless disregard for their own limitations. Other species watched in bewilderment as these fragile creatures, bound by gravity and limited by their own biology, began to reach for the stars. The first contact with extraterrestrial life was not a grandiose affair, but rather a chaotic encounter. The Xel'Naga, a race of highly advanced beings known for their wisdom and technological prowess, stumbled upon Earth during one of their exploratory missions. Expecting a primitive society, they were met instead by humans who greeted them with a mixture of curiosity and audacity that bordered on madness. The Xel'Naga soon discovered that humans possessed an uncanny ability to adapt and overcome. Their technology was crude compared to the sophisticated systems of other species, yet it was effective in its simplicity. Humans had an innate talent for using whatever resources were available to them, often in ways that defied logic and reason. As humanity expanded into the cosmos, they encountered numerous civilizations. Some were peaceful and willing to share knowledge. Others were hostile and sought to dominate. In each case, humans responded with a tenacity that left even the most warlike species in awe. They fought with a ferocity that seemed disproportionate to their size and strength, often emerging victorious against overwhelming odds. Their secret weapon was not advanced technology or superior strategy, but rather an indomitable spirit that refused to accept defeat. When faced with insurmountable challenges, humans would dig deep into reserves of determination that seemed inexhaustible. They would rise from the ashes of their failures stronger and more resolved than before. The galaxy soon learned that underestimating humans was a grave mistake. Their resilience was matched only by their unpredictability. In battle, they employed tactics that were unconventional and sometimes downright bizarre, catching enemies off guard time and again. Their hyperconfidence was infectious. Even when staring down certain doom, humans believed they could triumph, and often did. Stories spread throughout the stars of human exploits, how they turned barren moons into thriving colonies, how they transformed junk into weapons of war, how they united disparate factions under a single banner through sheer force of will. To many species, these tales were nothing short of legend. Yet beneath their bravado lay a deeper truth. Humans were driven by more than just survival or conquest. They sought meaning in the vastness of space, a place where they could forge their own destiny free from constraints. This desire propelled them forward into uncharted territories where others dared not tread. And so it was that humans became known as the galactic honey badgers, a moniker both affectionate and cautionary. For while they may not have been the smartest or strongest or fastest, they possessed something far more potent, an unyielding determination that made them unstoppable. In time, humanity's influence spread across galaxies like wildfire, a testament to what can be achieved when one refuses to back down in the face of adversity. And though many challenges still lay ahead, one thing remained certain. Wherever there were stars to be reached or battles to be fought, humans would be there, undaunted and undeterred, ready to prove once again why they are truly one of a kind in this vast universe. As humanity's reputation grew, so did the challenges they faced. The galaxy was a vast tapestry of alliances and rivalries, each with its own agendas and ambitions. Among these, the Xerathian Empire stood as a formidable adversary. Known for their unmatched military might and strategic cunning, the Xerathians had subjugated countless worlds, leaving a trail of conquered planets in their wake. When the Xerathians turned their gaze toward human territories, many believed it would be the end of humanity's meteoric rise. The Empire's fleets were vast, and their weapons unparalleled. Yet, humans met this threat not with fear, but with a defiant grin, a characteristic that had become emblematic of their kind. The first skirmishes were brutal, testing the limits of human resilience. Zarathian commanders were baffled by the humans' refusal to retreat, even when outnumbered and outgunned. For every ship lost, humans seemed to gain tenacity, adapting their tactics with an ingenuity that bordered on reckless genius. In one legendary battle over the resource-rich planet of Arcturus IV, human forces employed a tactic that would become infamous throughout the galaxy. Facing an overwhelming Zarathian fleet, they initiated a maneuver known as the Wasp's Nest. Using small, agile fighters equipped with experimental cloaking devices, they swarmed the larger ships in chaotic patterns, striking from unexpected angles and sowing confusion among the enemy ranks. The Zarathians, accustomed to predictable warfare strategies, found themselves outmaneuvered by what they deemed an inferior foe. The battle raged for days, but in the end, it was the humans who stood victorious. News of this improbable triumph spread like wildfire, further cementing humanity's status as a force to be reckoned with. Yet victory came at a cost. The losses were significant, and for every celebration of success, there was mourning for those who had fallen. But even in grief, humans found strength. They honored their dead by continuing to push forward, driven by a shared belief that every sacrifice brought them closer to securing their place among the stars. As the war with the Zarathian Empire dragged on, alliances began to form around humanity. Species that had once viewed humans with skepticism now saw them as potential allies against a common foe. The Galactic Coalition was born, a diverse assembly of worlds united not by fear, but by hope and mutual respect. Within this coalition, humans played a pivotal role, not just as warriors but as diplomats and innovators. Their ability to bridge cultural divides and inspire cooperation was as remarkable as their prowess in battle. They shared technologies and strategies freely, fostering an environment where collaboration thrived. The tide of war began to turn. With each victory, humanity's confidence soared higher, fueled by an unwavering belief in their cause. They fought not just for survival, but for a future where freedom and self-determination were within reach for all species. In time, even the mighty Zarathian Empire began to falter under the relentless pressure of this united front. Human-led coalitions launched daring raids deep into enemy territory, targeting supply lines and crippling infrastructure with surgical precision. It was a campaign marked by audacity and strategic brilliance, a testament to what could be achieved when determination met opportunity. But the final chapter of this conflict had yet to be written. As humanity stood on the brink of ultimate victory or devastating defeat, they knew one thing for certain. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. The war against the Zarathian Empire had reached a fever pitch. Human-led coalitions were pushing deeper into Zarathian space, dismantling their once unshakable dominance piece by piece. Victory seemed inevitable until it wasn't. It began with a ripple in the fabric of reality itself. At first, it was dismissed as a sensor malfunction, a glitch in the coalition's long-range scanners. But then came the reports. Entire fleets disappearing without a trace, planets falling silent overnight, and strange gravitational anomalies spreading across sectors like invisible scars. The galaxy, vast and ancient as it was, had secrets even the oldest species could not comprehend, and humanity had just stumbled into one of them. The Zarathians were the first to identify the threat. For all their arrogance and might, even they could not hide their fear when they broadcast a desperate message on every frequency. Cease hostilities. We face annihilation. It was unprecedented. A plea from an empire that had never known surrender. And for once, humanity listened. The coalition's leaders convened an emergency summit aboard the Resolute, a massive human-built station orbiting the neutral planet of Erythra. Representatives from dozens of species gathered in uneasy alliance, their faces etched with worry. The Zarathians sent an envoy, a gaunt, pale creature named Vorthin who spoke with the clipped precision of someone unaccustomed to asking for help. "It is the Maelstrom," Vorthin said, his voice reverberating through the chamber. "A force older than your son, older than any of us. We awakened it." "What is it?" demanded Admiral Liao, humanity's representative at the summit. She was a woman of sharp edges and sharper words, her gaze unflinching even in the face of cosmic dread. Vorthen hesitated, his alien features twisting in what might have been shame or fear. We do not know. It is not alive as we understand life, nor is it bound by the laws of physics you cling to so dearly. It consumes. It erases. The room erupted into chaos as delegates shouted over one another, their voices rising in panic and accusation. But Liao silenced them with a single command. Enough. She turned to Vorthen. If you don't know what it is, how do you know you woke it up? Vorthen's gaze dropped. We experimented, he admitted reluctantly. In our pursuit of ultimate power, we tampered with dimensions beyond our comprehension. The maelstrom is our punishment. Humanity's delegation exchanged glances, grim but unsurprised. Of course it would be something like this. Leave it to the galaxy's so-called apex predators to poke holes in reality itself. Typical, muttered Captain Reyes under his breath, earning a sharp look from Liao. The maelstrom didn't wait for diplomacy to run its course. Reports flooded in from across the galaxy, black voids swallowing entire fleets, stars dimming as if suffocated. And worst of all, strange whispers that infiltrated comm systems and minds alike, a haunting chorus that drove some to madness. Humanity did what humanity always did when faced with impossible odds. They got to work. While other species debated and despaired, humans began devising plans. Wild, reckless plans that no sane being would entertain, but which somehow always seemed to work. We can't fight this thing, said Dr. Kiran Patel, one of Earth's leading astrophysicists, during a hastily assembled briefing aboard the Resolute. But maybe we can contain it. How? Asked Liao. Patel hesitated before pulling up a holographic projection, a swirling mass of equations and schematics that looked more like abstract art than science. We build a trap, he said simply. The room fell silent as Patel explained his idea. Using humanity's knack for improvisation and engineering on the fly, they would construct an array of artificial singularities, black holes, to create a dimensional cage around the maelstrom's point of origin. It was insane, suicidal even, but no one had a better idea. Of course, building such a device required resources far beyond what humanity alone could muster. For the first time in history, the coalition worked together as one, not out of trust or camaraderie, but out of sheer necessity. Even the Zorathians contributed their advanced technology to the effort, though their pride made every interaction with humans bristle with tension. You're lucky we need you, Vorthen sneered during one particularly heated exchange with Admiral Liao. No, Liao shot back with a smirk that could cut steel. You're lucky we're crazy enough to try this. As construction began on what would come to be known as the Crucible Array, humanity led from the front lines. Not just in engineering, but also in defending against the maelstrom's encroaching tendrils of destruction. They fought like demons possessed, holding back its advance long enough for scientists and engineers to do their work. But then something unexpected happened, something no one could have predicted. During one skirmish near the edge of maelstrom space, human pilots reported seeing shapes within the void. Not random patterns, but deliberate forms. Towering figures made of shadow and starlight that moved with eerie grace. And then came the message. It wasn't transmitted through conventional means, but directly into their minds. A single word repeated over and over again in every language known to sentient life. Asterisk Y. Asterisk. The maelstrom wasn't just consuming, it was questioning. Humanity had always been good at breaking things, rules, limits, enemies. But now they faced an enigma unlike anything they'd encountered before. An ancient force that defied understanding yet seemed curious about them. Admiral Liao made her decision quickly. Too quickly for some members of the coalition who balked at her audacity, but couldn't stop her regardless. We're sending someone in, she announced grimly to her crew aboard the Resolute. If this thing wants answers, we'll give them. The decision to send an envoy into the maelstrom was met with a mixture of awe and disbelief. Many within the coalition questioned the sanity of such a mission, but Admiral Liao was resolute. Humanity had always thrived on the edge of the impossible, and this was no different. Captain Reyes, a seasoned pilot with a penchant for daring maneuvers, volunteered for the mission. His reputation for surviving the unsurvivable had earned him both admiration and concern among his peers. As he prepared for what could very well be a one-way journey, he was acutely aware of the weight of responsibility resting on his shoulders. The ship chosen for this mission was the Intrepid, a small but robust craft equipped with experimental shielding and communication arrays designed to withstand the Maelstrom's chaotic energies. Engineers worked around the clock to ensure it was ready, infusing it with every ounce of human ingenuity they could muster. As the Intrepid approached the swirling maw of the Maelstrom, Reyes felt a strange calm wash over him, a clarity that came from knowing he was about to face something truly beyond comprehension. The ship's systems hummed with energy as it pierced the event horizon, plunging into a realm where time and space twisted like smoke in the wind. Inside the Maelstrom, reality itself seemed to unravel. Colors bled into one another in impossible hues, and sounds echoed in ways that defied logic. But amidst this chaos, Reyes sensed an underlying order, a rhythm that pulsed like a heartbeat beneath the cacophony. And then, there were the shapes again, vast silhouettes that moved with purpose through the void. They were not hostile nor welcoming. They simply were. As the Intrepid drifted closer, Reyes focused on maintaining his composure, reaching out with his thoughts as instructed by Dr. Patel and his team. Why? The question resonated once more, filling his mind with its insistent presence. Reyes took a deep breath and responded aloud, knowing that somehow his words would be understood. "We seek to understand," he said simply. "We want to coexist." There was a pause, a stillness that seemed to stretch into eternity, before an answer came, not in words but in images and sensations that flooded Reyes' consciousness. Visions of stars being born and dying, civilizations rising and falling, echoes of laughter and tears from countless worlds. The Maelstrom was not merely a force of destruction. It was a repository of knowledge and experience from eons past. It had watched over the galaxy since time immemorial, observing without interference until now. Reyes realized then that humanity's actions, their relentless drive to explore, to conquer their fears, had awakened something within this ancient entity, curiosity about these beings who dared defy their own limitations so boldly. "We are not enemies," Reyes projected back into the void. "We are explorers." The response came as a gentle pulse through the Intrepid, a sensation akin to warmth spreading through his veins. The Maelstrom seemed to acknowledge his words, not with understanding, but with acceptance. Back aboard the Resolute, Admiral Liao and her team monitored Reyes' progress anxiously. They could sense something shifting within the Maelstrom's depths, but dared not hope too soon. Then came the breakthrough. Data streams began pouring from the Intrepid, filled with information beyond their wildest dreams. Insights into physics and biology that defied current understanding. Histories of long-lost species. Glimpses into possible futures shaped by choices yet to be made. As scientists scrambled to decode this treasure trove of knowledge, one thing became clear. Humanity had forged an unprecedented connection with an entity older than any star. A bond born not out of fear or aggression, but mutual curiosity and respect. Yet even as celebrations erupted across coalition worlds at this unexpected turn of events, Admiral Liao knew there were still challenges ahead. Questions left unanswered about what lay beyond even this newfound alliance with the Maelstrom. But for now, humanity stood triumphant once more, not through violence or domination, but through sheer audacity and willingness to embrace the unknown. And so they continued their journey among the stars, undaunted and undeterred, ready to face whatever mysteries awaited them in this vast universe, where anything seemed possible if only one dared reach for it. The Maelstrom's acknowledgement of humanity's message did not end the tension. It merely shifted it. The coalition, still reeling from the influx of knowledge pouring out of the Intrepid, struggled to comprehend what had just occurred. The Zarathians, once so confident in their superiority, were now uncharacteristically silent. Even Vorthan, their envoy, seemed shaken as he watched the data streams with a mix of awe and dread. But Admiral Liao wasn't celebrating yet. She knew better than to assume the Maelstrom's response was an act of peace. It was curious, yes, but curiosity could be as dangerous as hostility. Humanity's history was littered with examples of what happened when powerful forces became too interested in weaker ones. Reyes, still aboard the Intrepid, remained at the heart of the storm. The ship floated in a surreal calm within the maelstrom's core, surrounded by impossible geometries and shimmering waves of energy that seemed to pulse in time with his own heartbeat. He could feel it now, not just as a presence, but as a vast, unfathomable intelligence pressing against his mind like a tidal wave held back by sheer willpower. "We've got what we came for," Liao's voice crackled through his comms. "Reyes, pull out. We're not risking you any longer." But Reyes hesitated. Something was changing within the maelstrom. The shapes, those towering figures of shadow and starlight, were moving closer, their forms coalescing into something almost recognizable. They weren't just watching anymore. They were reaching out. "Admiral," Reyes said slowly, his voice tight with concentration, "I don't think it's done with us yet." Before Liao could respond, a surge of energy rippled through the maelstrom, and the Intrepid S systems flared with warning lights. The ship shook violently, as if caught in the grip of an unseen hand. "Reyes!" Liao barked over the comms. "What's happening?" I think it's trying to show me something," he replied through gritted teeth, gripping the controls as the ship stabilized again. "It's not attacking, it's guiding me." Against every protocol and ounce of common sense, Reyes allowed the Intrepid to drift deeper into the maelstrom's core. The shapes grew clearer now, no longer abstract, but almost humanoid in form, though impossibly vast and alien in detail. Their presence was overwhelming, yet Reyes felt no fear, only an intense pressure in his mind as they communicated not in words but in raw emotion and sensation. And then he saw it, a vision unlike anything he'd ever experienced unfolded before him. A galaxy not as it was but as it could be, vibrant, interconnected, teeming with life and possibility. But alongside this vision came another, a darker one. Worlds consumed by fire and shadow, civilizations crumbling under their own hubris, the maelstrom itself expanding unchecked until nothing remained. It wasn't just showing him these futures, it was asking him to choose. Back aboard the Resolute, chaos erupted as scientists struggled to interpret the sudden spike in data from the Intrepid. Dr. Patel stared at the readouts with wide eyes, muttering under his breath about quantum entanglement and multidimensional feedback loops. "What does it mean?" Liao demanded. Patel turned to her, his face pale but resolute. I think the maelstrom is offering us a choice," he said. "It sees humanity as a tipping point, a species capable of shaping the galaxy's future for better or worse." Liao frowned deeply. "And if we choose wrong?" Patel didn't answer. He didn't need to. Inside the maelstrom, Reyes grappled with the enormity of what he was being asked to do. The visions pressed against his mind like waves crashing against a fragile dam, each one more vivid than the last. He saw humanity at its best, building bridges between species, exploring new frontiers with courage and compassion, but also at its worst, greed and violence tearing apart everything they had worked so hard to achieve. "I'm just one man," he whispered into the void. "How can I decide something like this?" The response came not in words, but in a surge of warmth that filled him with an unshakable certainty. Humanity didn't have to be perfect. They just had to try. Reyes took a deep breath and focused on the brighter vision, the one where humanity rose above its flaws to become something greater than itself. He didn't know if it was the right choice or even if he truly understood what he was doing, but he made it anyway, because that's what humans did. They leapt into the unknown with nothing but hope and determination to guide them. As soon as his decision crystallized in his mind, the Intrepid S systems flared to life again. The maelstrom pulsed once more, a final acknowledgement, before releasing its grip on the ship and allowing it to drift free. "Reyes?" Liao's voice crackled through his comms again, filled with both relief and urgency. "What happened? Are you all right?" "I'm fine," he replied shakily as the Intrepid navigated back toward Coalition space. "But I think we just made a deal with something way bigger than any of us." When Reyes finally returned to the Resolute, he brought more than just data. He brought hope and a warning. The maelstrom had given humanity a chance to prove itself worthy of shaping the galaxy's future, but it had also made it clear that failure would not go unnoticed. Now humanity stood at a crossroads unlike any they had faced before, not just fighting for survival, but for the very soul of what they could become. And somewhere deep within the void, the Maelstrom watched and waited. As the Intrepid docked with the Resolute, Captain Reyes emerged to a flurry of activity. Scientists, diplomats, and military personnel swarmed the hangar bay, eager to learn what had transpired within the Maelstrom. Admiral Liao was among them, her expression a mix of relief and determination. "Welcome back," she said, clasping Reyes' shoulder with a firm grip. "You did something incredible out there." Reyes nodded, still processing the enormity of his experience. "It wasn't just me," he replied. "The Maelstrom, it sees us as more than just another species. It sees potential." Liao's eyes narrowed thoughtfully. "Potential for what?" "For change," Reyes said simply. "For shaping the future of this galaxy. If we prove ourselves worthy." The implications of his words rippled through the gathered crowd like a shockwave. Humanity had been given a rare opportunity to influence the course of galactic history, but with it came immense responsibility. The choices they made now would echo across the stars for generations to come. In the days that followed, the Coalition worked tirelessly to decipher the wealth of knowledge Reyes had brought back. The data contained insights into advanced technologies, ecological preservation methods, and even philosophical frameworks from long-extinct civilizations. It was a treasure trove that promised to elevate every species within the Coalition, if they could learn to harness it wisely. But not everyone was eager to embrace this newfound alliance with the Maelstrom. Skepticism and fear lingered among some factions, particularly those who had suffered greatly during the initial chaos. The Zerathians, though cowed by their brush with annihilation, remained wary of humanity's growing influence. Vorthan approached Admiral Liao during one tense meeting aboard the Resolute. His demeanor was less confrontational than before, but his eyes still held a glint of suspicion. "You realize this changes everything," he said quietly. "Your people have become something more than just another player in this cosmic game." Liao met his gaze evenly. "We're not looking for power or dominance," she replied. "We want to build something better, for everyone." Vorthan's lips curled into a thin smile. "Noble words," he said, "but history is littered with noble intentions gone awry." "Then we'll just have to prove you wrong," Liao shot back without missing a beat. As the Coalition debated its next steps, humanity took the lead in fostering cooperation and understanding among its members. They shared their knowledge freely, encouraging other species to contribute their own insights and experiences to create a truly collaborative effort. Projects sprang up across Coalition space. Joint research stations exploring sustainable energy solutions, cultural exchanges that celebrated diversity rather than feared it, and diplomatic initiatives aimed at resolving long-standing conflicts through dialogue instead of warfare. Yet even as progress unfolded, shadows loomed on the horizon. The Maelstrom's presence remained a constant reminder of the delicate balance they were trying to maintain, a balance that could tip at any moment if they faltered in their resolve. Captain Reyes found himself at the center of these efforts, not just as a hero, but as a symbol of what humanity could achieve when pushed beyond its limits. He traveled from world to world, sharing his experiences and urging others to embrace this opportunity for growth and unity. But beneath his confident exterior lay an unspoken fear. What if they failed? What if humanity's flaws proved too great to overcome? The weight of these questions bore down on him, like an invisible burden he couldn't shake off. One evening, as he stood alone on the Resolute's observation deck watching stars drift by like distant beacons in an endless sea, Admiral Liao joined him silently. "You look like you've got the weight of the universe on your shoulders," she remarked gently. Reyes chuckled softly despite himself. "Feels that way sometimes." Liao leaned against the railing beside him, her gaze fixed on the stars beyond. "You did something amazing out there," she said quietly. "But remember, you're not alone in this." He nodded slowly, taking comfort in her words even as doubts lingered at the edges of his mind. For now, though, for tonight, they stood together beneath an infinite sky filled with possibilities yet unrealized, undaunted by challenges ahead, ready once more prove why humanity was truly one of a kind in this vast universe where anything seemed possible if only one dared reach for it again and again and again. The quiet moment on the observation deck didn't last long. A A sharp chime echoed through the ship's comm system, followed by the clipped voice of Commander Yara, the Resolute's tactical officer. "Admiral, Captain Reyes, you're needed in command immediately. We got a situation." Liao and Reyes exchanged a glance. One of those silent, unspoken acknowledgments that humanity had perfected over centuries of shared crises. Whatever peace they'd managed to carve out was about to be tested. When they arrived in the command center, the tension was palpable. Holographic displays lit up the room, showing distorted images of multiple fleets, gathering at the edge of Coalition space. Ships from dozens of species, some Coalition allies, others neutral parties, and even a few Zarathian vessels, were converging in what appeared to be an uncoordinated but undeniable show of force. "What the hell is this?" Liao demanded as she strode into the room. Commander Yara gestured to the main display. "We picked up their movements an hour ago. They're not broadcasting any formal intent, but we've intercepted enough chatter to piece it together. They're calling it the Reckoning." Reyes frowned. "The Reckoning? That doesn't sound friendly." "It's not," Yara said grimly. "From what we can tell, this is a coalition of their own, a loose alliance of species who think humanity's connection with the Maelstrom is too dangerous to be left unchecked." Liao's jaw tightened. "So, they've decided to point their guns at us instead of working together to make use of what we've learned." "Not just us," Yara corrected. "They see the entire coalition as compromised. They think we've all been tainted by the Maelstrom's influence." Reyes let out a low whistle. "Paranoia on a galactic scale?" Liao turned back to the holograms, her mind racing. This wasn't just a military threat. It was an existential one. If these fleets attacked, it could shatter everything humanity and their allies had worked so hard to build. Worse still, it could provoke the Maelstrom itself if it perceived this as an act of aggression against its chosen emissaries. "Options?" she asked curtly. Commander Yara hesitated before responding. "We could mobilize our forces and prepare for defense, but, Admiral, we're outnumbered 5-1. If this turns into a shooting war, it won't end well for us." "What about diplomacy?" Reyes suggested. "There's got to be someone in that mess willing to talk sense." Yara shook her head. "We've tried sending messages through official channels. No response so far." Liao's eyes narrowed as she studied the display. This wasn't just fear driving these fleets. It was desperation. The Maelstrom had shaken the galaxy to its core, and humanity's role in awakening it had made them a target for every species looking for someone to blame. But Liao wasn't about to let fear dictate the future. Not theirs and certainly not humanity's. "Patch me through," she ordered. Yara blinked in surprise. "To who?" "To all of them," Liao said firmly. "Every ship out there needs to hear this." A tense silence fell over the command center as technicians scrambled to open a wideband transmission channel. When it was ready, Liao stepped forward, her voice steady and commanding as she addressed the gathered fleets. "This is Admiral Liao of the Resolute, speaking on behalf of humanity and the Coalition," she began. "I know why you're here. You're afraid of what you don't understand, afraid of what this new alliance with the Maelstrom means for your futures." Her words hung in the air for a moment before she continued. "But let me tell you something about humanity. We've been afraid before. We were afraid when we first looked up at the stars and wondered if we were alone. We were afraid when we faced challenges that seemed insurmountable. Wars, disasters, enemies stronger than us in every way." She paused, letting her gaze sweep across the room as if addressing each member of those distant fleets personally. "And every single time, we overcame that fear. Not by running from it, but by facing it head on. That's what we do. That's what makes us human." Reyes watched her with quiet admiration as she spoke, her words carrying a weight that went beyond mere rhetoric. "The Maelstrom isn't our enemy," Liao continued. "It's an opportunity, a chance for all of us to learn and grow in ways we never thought possible. But only if we work together instead of tearing each other apart out of fear and mistrust." Her voice hardened slightly as she delivered her final words. "So I'm asking you now. No, I'm challenging you. Are you going to let fear define your actions? Or are you going to stand with us and face this unknown future together?" When she finished speaking, there was only silence, an agonizing silence that stretched on for what felt like an eternity. Then came the first response, a single ship breaking formation, and signaling its intent to join the coalition fleet. And then another, and another. It wasn't unanimous, not by a long shot, but it was enough to give Liao hope that reason might yet prevail over chaos. But just as relief began to settle over the Resolute, an alarm blared through the command center. "Admiral," Yara shouted urgently. "We got incoming. Something big." Liao turned back to the displays just in time to see a massive distortion ripple across space near the edge of the maelstrom. A tear in reality itself, opening wider than anything they'd seen before. From within that tear emerged something new, something vast and alien beyond comprehension, and it wasn't alone. The maelstrom had sent its emissaries, or perhaps its enforcers. And now everyone, humanity, their allies, their enemies, would have to face whatever came next together, or perish apart. The emergence of the maelstrom's emissaries was unlike anything the galaxy had ever witnessed. As they poured forth from the rift, their forms defied conventional understanding, shifting, amorphous entities that shimmered with colors beyond the visible spectrum. They moved with a grace that belied their size, each one a living enigma wrapped in cosmic energy. In the command center of the Resolute, Admiral Liao and her team watched in stunned silence as the emissaries took their positions at the edge of coalition space. The gathered fleets, both allied and adversarial, hesitated, unsure whether to interpret this as a threat or a gesture of protection. "Admiral," Commander Yara said, her voice barely above a whisper. "What are they doing?" Liao shook her head slowly. "I don't know, but I think we're about to find out." As if in response to her words, a wave of energy pulsed from the emissaries, washing over every ship in the vicinity. It wasn't an attack. Instead, it felt like an invitation, a call to listen and understand. Reyes, standing beside Liao, felt it too, a gentle pressure against his mind that reminded him of his encounter within the maelstrom. He closed his eyes, focusing on the sensation as it coalesced into something more tangible, a message not in words but in feelings and images. He saw visions of unity, of species working together to build something greater than themselves. He felt the weight of responsibility that came with such power, but also the boundless potential for growth and discovery. And beneath it all was a simple truth. The maelstrom had chosen humanity not just for their audacity, but for their capacity to inspire change across the galaxy. Reyes opened his eyes, meeting Liao's gaze with newfound clarity. "They're here to help," he said softly. "They want us to succeed." Liao nodded slowly, absorbing his words as she turned back to address the assembled fleets once more. "Listen," she urged over the open channel. "The maelstrom's emissaries aren't here to destroy us. They're offering us a chance to prove ourselves worthy of this new era." Her voice carried an urgency that cut through the tension like a knife. "We have an opportunity now, an opportunity to redefine what it means to be part of this galaxy. But we can only do it together." The response was not immediate. Fear and skepticism still lingered among many ships. But gradually, one by one, vessels began signaling their willingness to stand with humanity and the coalition. It was a fragile alliance, one born out of necessity rather than trust, but it was enough for now. As the fleets repositioned themselves alongside the emissaries, Liao knew that this was only the beginning. The real work lay ahead, building bridges where there had been walls, fostering cooperation where there had been conflict, and navigating uncharted territories, both literal and metaphorical. But for all its challenges, this new path held promise, a promise forged in fire and tempered by hope. And so humanity stood ready once more, undaunted by what lay ahead, poised on the brink of an uncertain future where anything seemed possible if only they dared reach for it again, together. As the Resolute and its allies prepared for whatever came next, Admiral Liao allowed herself a rare moment of reflection, a moment to appreciate how far they had come and how much further they could still go. Because in this vast universe filled with wonders yet undiscovered and mysteries yet unsolved, one thing remained certain. Humanity would continue pushing forward, driven by crackhead determination, ultra-violence when necessary, hyper-confidence always, and above all else, resilience that refused to be broken no matter what challenges awaited them beyond even these stars. The galaxy held its breath as the emissaries hovered in the void, their vast, incomprehensible forms radiating a presence that could be felt across every ship and every mind. Even the most hardened soldiers aboard the Zarathian vessels, beings bred and trained for war, found themselves frozen in awe. This was no ordinary moment. It was history being written in real time, a turning point that would define the future of countless civilizations. Admiral Liao stood at the center of the Resolute's command center, her hands clasped behind her back as she stared at the holographic projection of the emissaries. Around her, the chatter of officers and analysts hummed like static electricity. Reports were flooding in from across the coalition fleet. Systems were stabilizing, communications were clearing, and, most curiously, the Maelstrom's chaotic gravitational distortions were beginning to recede. "Admiral," Commander Yara said, breaking the silence, "the emissaries are transmitting something. It's not language exactly. More like patterns, frequencies. It's affecting our systems, but not in a hostile way." Liao nodded sharply. "Put on screen." The main display flickered and shifted to show a mesmerizing cascade of light and sound, a symphony of energy that seemed to pulse in time with the very rhythm of the universe. It wasn't just data, it was meaning, encoded in a form that transcended words. The coalition's brightest minds scrambled to interpret it, their faces lit by the glow of their consoles. Reyes, standing nearby, felt a familiar pressure against his thoughts, gentler this time, almost like a guiding hand. He closed his eyes again and let it flow through him. Flashes of insight came unbidden. Blueprints for technologies far beyond anything humanity had ever conceived. Visions of thriving worlds interconnected by trade and shared knowledge. And warnings, sharp and urgent, of what would happen if they failed to heed this opportunity. "It's giving us everything we need," Reyes said aloud, his voice filled with wonder. "Not just knowledge, direction, a path forward." Liao turned to him, her sharp gaze softening for just a moment. "Then we'd better make sure we don't waste it." But even as hope began to bloom across the coalition fleet, a new threat emerged, one that no one had anticipated. At the far edge of the system, an anomaly appeared on sensors, a massive fleet dropping out of hyperspace. Unlike anything seen before, these ships were jagged and unnatural in design, their hulls pulsing with a sickly green light that seemed to warp reality around them. They moved with eerie precision, forming an impenetrable wall as they advanced toward coalition space. "Who are they?" Liao demanded, her voice cutting through the rising tension. Yara's face was pale as she analyzed the data streaming in. Unknown configuration. No transponder signals or recognizable markings. But, Admiral, their energy signatures are off the charts, way beyond anything we've seen before. Reyes stepped closer to the display, his gut tightening as he watched the alien fleet approach. "They're not here to talk," he said grimly. The emissaries reacted instantly. Their forms shifted and expanded, glowing brighter as they moved to intercept this new threat. The maelstrom itself seemed to ripple in response, its energies surging outward like a tidal wave. And then it happened. Contact. The alien fleet opened fire with weapons that defied understanding, beams of energy that tore through space itself, aimed directly at the emissaries. But instead of crumbling under the assault, the emissaries absorbed it effortlessly, their forms shimmering with renewed intensity. The battle that followed was unlike anything ever recorded in galactic history. The emissaries and the alien fleet clashed with a ferocity that shook entire star systems. Waves of energy rippled outward from their conflict, disrupting sensors and communications across hundreds of light years. On the Resolute, Liao barked orders to her crew as they worked frantically to stabilize their systems. "Give me a secure line to every ship in this fleet," she shouted over the chaos. When the connection was established, she addressed them all with unwavering resolve. "This is Admiral Liao," she began. "You've all seen what we're up against, a force unlike anything we've ever faced before. But let me remind you who we are." Her voice rose with each word, cutting through fear like a blade. "We are humanity. We are survivors. We've fought against impossible odds before and come out stronger every time. And now we stand together, not just as humans, but as part of something greater, a coalition united by hope and determination, She paused for breath before delivering her final rallying cry. So I'm asking you now, no. I'm telling you. Stand your ground. Fight not just for yourselves, but for every life in this galaxy. Show them what it means to be unstoppable. Cheers erupted across the fleet as her words ignited a fire in every heart. The coalition ships surged forward alongside the emissaries, their weapons blazing as they joined the fight against this new enemy. Species that had once been enemies now fought side by side, their differences forgotten in the face of a common threat. Reyes led one of the first attack wings in a battle aboard the Intrepid, weaving through enemy fire with reckless precision as the squadron targeted weak points in the alien fleet's formation. "Keep pushing," he shouted over comms. "We've got them on their heels." But even as victory seemed within reach, something changed. The alien fleet began to shift its tactics, focusing its firepower not on ships, but on space itself. They were trying to destabilize reality around them, to tear open another rift like the one that had birthed the maelstrom. Reyes realized it first. "They're trying to bring reinforcements," he yelled into his comms. Liao's response was immediate and decisive. "All ships focus fire on those destabilizers. We can't let them open another rift." The battle intensified as coalition forces concentrated their efforts on disabling the alien fleet's devices while fending off relentless attacks from all sides. In one final act of unity and defiance, humanity and its allies unleashed everything they had, a coordinated strike that obliterated the destabilizers and sent shockwaves rippling through enemy lines. The alien fleet faltered under this combined assault before retreating into hyperspace. A victory hard won, but incomplete. As silence fell over the battlefield once more, Liao stood on the Resolute-S bridge looking out at what remained. Battered ships held together by sheer willpower. Emissaries glowing faintly but still present. And beyond them all, the maelstrom itself pulsing steadily like an ancient heartbeat reminding them all why they fought so fiercely, for survival, for unity, and above all else, for hope amidst endless stars yet unexplored.